That's the pup. You want to see the pup? I'll show you the pup. Come here. This is Ripley. That's Ripley Ellen. Scream 5 should have been called Scream 5 from the get-go. It should not have been called Scream, ever. Why you would just call Scream 5, it's clearly a fifth entry in the film. It's a new story, yes, but you have your characters from the other films in it. It's a studio move. Studios thinking that numerical sequels don't do well or whatever their justification is. It makes no sense, and it just makes it confusing for the casual fan, which is funny because their whole idea of these movies doing well is based all around servicing the casual fan. They don't really care about the diehards unless they get, as long as they get their money. And the diehards are going to be bought in because they know Michael Myers and the Halloween franchise had, it's laid out. So when Halloween 2018 came out, even if you called it Halloween 2018, wouldn't have had a problem with it. If you would have called it Halloween 40 years later, wouldn't have had a problem with it. They decided to just call it Halloween. Super annoying, super doesn't make sense. Why would you have two films? Just put the number on it. Just put the number on it. Or you don't even have to do that with Halloween because we had Halloween Resurrection and they didn't even call Halloween the Curse of Michael Myers even Halloween 6. They just called it Halloween the Curse of Michael Myers. Put your subtitle on it. So you call it He Comes Home or whatever the subtitle is. That's what you should have just had. They didn't do it. And they didn't do it with Scream either. They just called it Scream 2022. They're, just Scream. And then if you look at stuff like branding or it's mentioned in anything, if it says Scream, it says Scream parenthesized 2022. Makes no sense. It's a studio move. I could go on and on about how studios don't know what they're doing. They just don't. They don't know and they don't care. They try to go off analytics that are completely irrelevant to horror fans. You want to really test like analytics, talk to people who are following horror channels on YouTube. Talk to people who aren't following Fangoria. Fangoria and Dread Central. I could go on and on about how the downfall of those two. I don't even know if you call them organizations, but there's kneecapping Scream 7 before it even comes out. If you're gonna do a review and kneecap a movie the day of its pre-release Thursday, maybe get someone that says, "Oh, this film sucks," and then get an opposing opinion for someone from your organization, your magazine. I mean, the magazine's not the same either, and the publication is just it's not the same. It's not the Fangoria I grew up buying. And I mean, a lot of people said, Fangoria lost its way years ago before all their controversy that happened 5-6 years ago too, where they completely had to rebrand and people that were a part of their podcast network left because there was a bunch of disgusting and shady stuff going on. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that. But Fangoria is kind of a joke now, and I hope as someone that works at that publication sees it and they can justify or say how I'm wrong. But the stuff that they post is kind of a goof. And Dread Central, same thing. Like you're posting something kneecapping the seventh film already. You have more than a few people that do reviews at your publication. Make a couple. Anyway, tangent over, continuing on. Scream 5, it should have been called Scream 5. I refer to it as Scream 5. Anybody I talk to calls it Scream 5. Shouldn't have been called Scream parentheses 2022. Anyway, moving on. Scream 5. Scream 5, I had a lot of hope for. It was nice that they tried to bill it as like a tribute to Wes. They called one of the characters that's the son of the deputy that's we saw and got introduced to in Scream 4. Her son's called Wes. At the end of the movie, they had a little thing that said for Wes. Cheap Heat, maybe. Cool that they're continuing on. Wes directing the first 4 films. It's cool that they did that little tribute and nod to him. I think he deserved it. But listen, let's talk about the real issue with Scream 5, and it bleeds over into Scream 6, which has even more problems. Scream 5 is really not like a well thought out idea. It really isn't. You have new characters, then you all of a sudden, and I understand 3 changed the lore and gave Sydney a half brother that she didn't know about that ends up being the killer. Okay. I wasn't all about that either. I think it's better in hindsight now Will I feel that way about some of the decisions made in Scream 5 and 6? I'm going to guess not, but who knows? Time will tell. Anyway, right now, as we sit in 2026, it wasn't a good idea. And to have Sam Carpenter, again, nice little nod. I'm guessing it's a little nod to John Carpenter, obviously. There was nods to him and other greats throughout this series and everything. But listen, having Billy Loomis in the movie as a ghost, okay, I'm fine with that. De-aging him with a little like AI touch-ups and stuff like that, and then having him encourage Sam Carpenter to her serialistic or serial killer instinct and serial killer bloodline, him urging her to kill the new Ghostface, that doesn't make any sense. From beyond the grave, he's pushing her to, embrace that you're a serial killer, you're a Loomis. It's dumb. It's dumb. And I know there's a lot of newer fans that came onto the Scream franchise that are a little bit younger, and they didn't live through the hype of the first Scream, the second Scream, and the love. And like I said, I've said in one of the previous videos, I think Scream was kind of looked down upon. It was kind of seen the way like some people see like the Hostel or Saw franchises, which are vastly inferior to the Scream franchise. The Scream franchise is not without its valleys. There's certainly peaks, but we have some valleys. And 5 and 6 are valleys, and 5's a valley, and 6 is goddamn Freddy's Boiler Room. It is Mankind with Jim Cornette's Pet Rat George Boiler Room level valley bullshit. Not good. I will give the opening scene to 6 credit. That was really fun. The killer leading her into the alley, killing her. He's a part of like a coalition of crazed fans, and then he's killed. I did like that. And it kind of dies on the vine after that. I like that. Then you have, the killers in Scream 5 are, Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan's kid, who is, a crazed fan who loves it. And then you find out in 6 that his family is the killer. His father and his mother and his sister are the killers because they killed him and couldn't believe what you did to his body. What? He was a goddamn serial killer, man. What are you talking about? So obviously, you just your whole family just happens to be super twisted, and your cop father in 6 happens to get you to accumulate all the artifacts from the Woodsboro murders and all the Ghostface killings, and he has this crazy collection that you see that is all going to get signed at the next fucking con. It's a little goof. It's a little goofy, and it's a little like, I don't know. It just seems like it's a 22-year-old that you just flew the Scream films in front of him, and it's just like, here, be on your phone for the next 8 hours, but watch the first four Screams, and then watch Scream 5, and then come up with an idea. That's how 5 felt, and that's how 6 felt. That it didn't feel like they were fans, and it felt like the pushing of 4 West at the end of Scream 5. I feel like that was a way to try to, for me, maybe my opinion's completely wrong, but it's my opinion. And I felt like doing the tribute to Wes, even if it was intended well, it felt like I was being pandered to as one of the legacy Scream fans and watchers of the film. And they thought, I think doing that, they could get away with some of the goof that they had in 5. It just didn't work. The Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan's kid is with his friend, and they're big fanatics, and they didn't like the way it went. The Stab series went, so they wanted to add to the lure and change it so the next movie could be great. It's kind of goofy, and it seems lazy and uninventive. I'm hoping Scream 7 has something to dish up. But granted, the first 4 films that I've talked about all this week as we're on the heels of the release of Scream 7, I've kind of heaped a lot of praise and, mentioned my qualms with each one of them. But 5 and 6, I ain't got much good to say. The opening scene of 6 is good. The opening scene of 5 is kind of lackluster. Probably that and 3 are kind of like the most boring ones. Um, I don't know. It just seems like the whole, and I know there's a bunch of controversy going on with the release of Melissa, the star, and then Jenna Ortega leaving soon after that. They're both great actresses. They're amazing. And their performances in these are actually great in both films, 5 and 6. Um, and I don't really have a problem with I didn't like the story. The story and like the introduction to them making her Billy Loomis just happen to have an illegitimate child. Like, I think it's kind of rushed and stupid. I understand that happens with sequels. You got to push the lore, so you got to create new, interesting ways to do things. But I don't know. It just seemed goofy. It just seemed like I never understood what they were trying to do. I really didn't. But anyway, it's something where I think, some fans are going to like it, some aren't. Like, and, the vast majority of younger fans like it because they're living through current Scream films, when they either weren't born when the first 2 or 3 came out, and, now they're 20 years old and 22 years old. So they're loving these current ones, and it's cool to, like, love what you're living through, too. So I understand that. I just didn't think that, again, the acting is not the problem. Jenna Ortega, Melissa Barrera, is that her name? They're both great. Their acting ability is amazing. And I know, obviously, she got fired for voicing her opinions about issues that were going on, and that was why she was removed and things like that. Honestly, probably for the best for the franchise, and the boycotting of it now, I don't know if it makes sense, because in my eyes, a bigger story was Nev not being paid. Someone who has carried this franchise from the get-go and been the star. Again, there wasn't enough Nev in 5, and she wasn't in 6 because the studio refused to pay her. And the studio is the real problem here. Whether it be removing someone for their beliefs or not paying Sydney, not paying the girl that's carried the entire film franchise for what? You're not going to pay her because why? And then once you have to, in your eyes, have to remove your current star, then you pony up the money and pay Nev. There's a discrepancy with the women's pay and everything like that still to this day. And that was more relevant than ever. How are you not paying the star of your franchise to come back? Granted, Nev got her $7 million for 7, so hell yeah. I'm extremely happy for her because Nev is super underrated, I think, in the pantheon of Scream Queens and actresses in general. Nev is a cut above in a lot of aspects. Everything I see Nev in, I love. And I think she's a great actress. Why they weren't going to pay her? No clue. That needs to be talked about as to why the studio wouldn't pay her. Granted, they ended up doing it when they had no other options. You'll take the good with the bad. She ended up getting paid, so it's nice to get that money for her. She deserves it. She's carried. The name is as synonymous as Laurie Strode with Halloween is Sidney Prescott with Scream, is Nancy Thompson with The Nightmare on Elm Street, is whoever you could think of as far as like the tie to the character, to the main, the face of the franchise. There's no way else to put it. She should have been paid from the get-go. She shouldn't have not been in any of them. It's not a Scream film without her. I think that's why 6 is the worst film. 5 is actually, rewatching 5 and 6, 5 is not much better at all. The opening scene in 5 is super boring. I think the opening scene sets the tone for the film. I think that's super indicative on how 3 was. Great, yeah, Shock, Cotton Weary gets killed in 3, but I don't know. Anyway, but the Scream 6 opening scene is great. Like I was explaining that, like that is actually pretty smart, and I actually did like that. And it quickly went off the rails the rest of the time there. Granted, when I see these films in theaters, I kind of felt that same way about Scream 6. Scream 5, I think I enjoyed a little bit more watching it in but I had not seen. I enjoyed it more seeing it in theater, but I had not seen a Scream film in 11 years. So it was fun to just go and have a communal aspect with my friends and go see a Scream film. We're going to see a Scream film. So even it's like pizza. Even when it's bad, it's good type thing. Hindsight now, yeah, it's not much better than 6, and 6 is the worst. I know a lot of people will say 3 is the worst after rewatching 3. 3 is definitely not the worst. 3 is actually fun, a product of the times, maybe too much comedy, but I like it. And yeah, it's I have high hopes for 7. I'm actually kind of burnt out from talking about Scream. This is the most I've talked about Scream in a long time. And I really like the first 2 films, and the fourth one are really the only ones that I thoroughly love and enjoy. 3 is better than I've given it credit for, from watching it the first time in 2000 or 2001 and just carrying it with me, the fandom with me. But yeah, like usually if I'm talking Scream with somebody, I'm talking the first 2 films more likely than not, because those I think are the 2 best by far. So we'll have one more video on Scream 7, and I'll give some thoughts on that, and we'll just kind of go from there as I talk into the void of YouTube, as I babble endlessly. Again, check the podcast out. We're gonna be doing some more episodes, audio only, Sight and Sound podcast. Heart Guide Media presents that. You can get that wherever you get all your podcast listening. We're at Instagram at Heart Guide Media. Give us a like, a subscribe, a follow. Break it down. Tell us your thoughts on 5 and 6. Again, I don't know why horror publications are trying to kneecap a horror movie as it's coming out. Maybe it's just like it's the in thing to do, but a lot of the stuff I see Fangoria or like Bloody Disgusting, I'm using those 2 because both of them trashed this film as it's going to it. Now, granted, people are just going to go see it, and it broke records for seeing, for pre-sale tickets for Scream, and it's on trend to do really well, and I hope it does. Any horror movie, even if I don't like it, I want it to do well because it's just gonna push more horror movies. I'm not huge on the Terrifier films. I think they're okay. Like, I understand what they're doing. I do think it's awesome that something that extreme and brutal is getting a theatrical release and getting people out there and getting studios talking and bidding wars for the next one and fandom for Art the Clown and Damien Leone and the whole Terrifier franchise. I'm not even huge on them. I don't even own them yet. Like, I'm going to buy them eventually, like when the series is like wrapped up and we get a nice little box set and stuff, and I could revisit them and talk about them with friends and stuff like that. But for the most part, I don't really care. Like I'm not a huge fan on them. I'll go see them because they are fun to see in theaters. Again, a communal aspect, going with my boys, going to see it. It's fun. The hype around them is super fun. I want to support, even if, it's like watching the shitty opening bands that are local or regional that it's not your flavor. You'll sit and you'll watch them and you'll support them because, that's what you do. I'm not going to whip my phone out and text while they're playing. I'll sit there and I'll watch them and I'll show them some respect because that's going to push them to be either being in a better band or they're going to get better eventually and be like, I didn't get it here, but I get it now that they're, I went to one of their other shows and I get it. I always kind of relate music and movies. It's a give and take. You got to push it forward. I understand that. But yeah, give us a like, a subscribe. Let us know you're watching the videos by commenting, engaging down. I'll reply to everything. Even the people that disagree with me. I welcome that more. I want more disagreements. I want to hear other people's opinion because the wheels can start spinning upstairs, the gears can start twisting in my mind, and I can maybe have a different perspective if I hear yours. And yeah, give us a follow, man. Give us a follow, subscribe, and let us know you're watching. And yeah, again, Instagram at Heart Guide Media. Check us out there. We'll have posts every day. But yeah, one more after this, and we won't talk about Scream for a long time, I swear. Not until the 8th film comes out. But it was I committed to doing all the Scream films the week of this release, and I don't regret it. But I'm over talking about Scream. I'll talk about Scream 7, and then we won't have to talk about it for the rest of the year. But yeah, those first 2, those are the classics, man. Everything else is interesting and fun and has their moments, but the first 2 are great. The first one, especially, a cut above most of the rest. But we'll see you on the next one. We'll see you tomorrow when we talk about Scream 7. Was it good? Was it bad? You'll find out. Did it suck? Was everything that we hoped it would be? So, yeah, we'll see. Cool.